So here in this KIO video series, we've been talking about addiction. As you'll notice, as we've moved through some of the heavier topics like trauma and addiction, there's only so much I can give you in terms of practices because these are very complex aspects of our experience with multifaceted aspects to them. What I'm doing is just giving you a basic map about how we work with addiction and trauma. Um, But I have to tell you that it's probably best to work with those issues. You can work with them on your own, but just remember that if you run into a snag or you get stuck, just reach out to our facilitators or to me for sessions at killaby.com. It can be really helpful to have somebody there working with you on these issues um, to show you the things that you can't see. Our certified facilitators are well trained in working with the drivers behind addiction. They know all the different inquiries to work with you on. I'm just giving you a few of them to get you started. If you can take these practices and use them in your life with great success, wonderful. If you need help with that, there's plenty of support out there for you from the facilitators at killaby.com. We've talked about trauma as a driver. Trauma is its own subject too, but it's also a driver towards addiction. I've also done some videos on that, give you some help with that. I've also talked about deficiency stories as being a driver behind addiction, and we've talked a little bit how to inquire into that for sure. We've talked about the preoccupation of I really need to use this substance or activity, or I shouldn't use this substance and activity, those two sides of the coin of preoccupation. We've talked about external pressure, right? External pressure can be a driver towards addiction. I want to talk today about a couple of other drivers, and they are boredom and physical pain. And later on, I'm going to talk about shame, which isn't a driver, which is a driver also. But I'm going to treat shame as its own topic later in this series, so you can watch those later videos on shame and then apply them to addiction if the shame is connected to addiction. But what you'll see is that this shame topic that I'm going to talk about later is much broader than just with addiction. It's a human thing. People feel shame about who they are, what they've done, and some of them do not have addictions. They're just dealing with shame. But shame is certainly a driver for addiction, so we're going to get to that later. Shame's going to have its own video or set of videos. The two drivers I want to work with now, which I think we can do fairly easily within this video, is just again boredom and physical pain. Let's talk about boredom first. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, although we all deal with boredom, Enneagram 7 types really have to deal with boredom a lot, because with the Enneagram 7 type, it's the adventurer, the one that always has to be doing something different to entertain themselves as a way to avoid just that sense of loneliness and restlessness and boredom that lies at the core of their identity. But really, you don't have to be a 7 type to relate to the fact that boredom can drive you back to substances and activities as a way to medicate that boredom. I can tell you that I don't get bored, okay? I used to live a life where I was bored all of the time, up until age 34. Frankly, throughout the heaviest years of my active addiction, a lot of it was just driven by boredom. It's just like, it's a feeling of lack, like there's something missing in this moment, and I have to get to the next moment to fill up the space that I'm feeling, the emptiness that I'm feeling about just being here doing nothing. And so one way that we take care of boredom, there's a number of ways. We get busy with work, we get busy with this project, or just immerse ourselves in something to avoid the experience of being bored. But one way that we deal with boredom is it drives us to compulsive behaviors and addictions as a way to fill up that space and to medicate that boredom. How do you deal with boredom? The simplest thing I can tell you is to get into a practice of mindfulness, just simple present moment awareness, like I've talked about before. Because when you're really here and awake and aware to the moment, and you're not ruminating a lot on thoughts about future, like what I should do, you're learning how to witness those thoughts come through and just let them fall away. That's helpful in and of itself, without any inquiry. So throughout the course of a day, when you find yourself restless or bored, you can of course go do something to fill up the time, but that doesn't really deal with the boredom, does it? You're just seeking other activities to keep you from feeling the feelings around the boredom. So I have what I feel like is a more skillful way of dealing with this. And that is, as you're resting in awareness, just become aware of the future thinking that happens around boredom. If you're just here present in the moment, again, not in a story, and just enjoying being here now, so to speak, the boredom really doesn't arise. Because in the present moment, there really isn't any boredom. There's nothing inherent about our experience that it isn't itself boring. It's how we're reacting and responding to what's happening that creates this story that I'm bored, I'm restless. And that story comes up literally as little future images that pop up, or ideas that pop up that tell us, I gotta go do this, I gotta go do that, I gotta get out of here and do this, I can't sit here, see. And then that easily leads to wanting to get drunk all the time to deal with the boredom, or go gambling or whatever else. And not that there's anything wrong with doing those things sometimes, but boredom can be a driver to compulsively return to those activities and substances as a way to drown out that feeling underneath the boredom. So, first and foremost, just the practice of being here now, taking moments of awareness throughout the day where you just settle into your current experience, looking from awareness, being present, and just watching for those thoughts that come up that say that something else should be happening. They're very subtle sometimes. You could be sitting on a couch and your mind just says, I got to do something, right? Of course you can get up and do that thing, but if you really want to deal with this boredom issue, do something different, which is when you see that thought arise, just turn towards it and observe it. Stay with it. And just watch it, and you'll see it's just a thought. At first you'll see it's just a thought. Now, there's a body component involved for sure, because it's all about Velcro. Just watch the thought first. Maybe the thought says, well, I have to clean the house. But it's not coming from the fact that the house is completely dirty. It's just that you're bored, right? Or I need to go to the park, or I need to go drink, or I need to go do something. Watch that thought as it comes up. And just be with it. If the thought is really sticky, you can use one of the hand tools. You can otherwise just rest and watch it, but sometimes these thoughts about being bored and feeling restless are very sticky because they're connected to energy in the body that feels restless or incomplete or something. So if the thought is sticky, it's just a little simple inquiry. Shift your focus away from that thought that tells you you've got to go do something, just to the sound of the tapping, the sensation of it, until you get some more distance from that thought or those thoughts. And now those thoughts kind of unhook from you a little bit. And that's a good time then to come into the body and just explore whatever restless feeling or contraction is behind that movement coming from boredom, and just rest with that now without thoughts on it. Let that restlessness just be there, feeling into it, being curious about the quality of it. You can dance with it, as we say, just feeling into it, allowing it to be exactly as it is, to move with it if it moves. Just staying with it very gently, right? And sometimes just doing that restless energy in of itself can just naturally fall away. Sometimes it does. But sometimes it doesn't. It's okay. So all we do is we have a choice here. We can go back to the original inquiry, or to an inquiry around boredom, to kind of find out, why is this energy still here? So a good reverse inquiry would be like, I'm not bored. That's simple. I'm not bored. And then what comes up is, yes, you are. You don't want to sit here and do nothing. You got to do something. Or whatever comes up. More pictures or whatever. You've used reverse inquiry to go deeper into the boredom here at this point. And now new stuff is popping up, right? So again, you can just watch those thoughts. Just turn right towards them, and without engaging their meaning, and without analyzing, just observe and allow. It's a very gentle process of just watching and allowing those thoughts. And again, sometimes that's all you have to do is just watch them, because in just resting with them and letting them be, somehow that gives them permission just to fall away on their own. Or do you have more space with them? But sometimes, again, these kinds of thoughts are very strong. You know, they keep telling you, got to go do something, got to go do something, got to go do something, right? If you feel the strength of those thoughts, there's a number of tools that you can use. Simple inquiry, the clearing method, focus shifting, tracking with focus shifting, right? You've learned all these tools. So here I'll pick one. I'm not having these kind of sticky thoughts around boredom. I'm just simulating this inquiry for you. But let's say I've got some really strong thoughts around this coming up, and they won't just sort of let go of me. I'm too identified with them. So then maybe I just use a little tracking. Not tracking with focus shifting, just try tracking. So moving my attention from those thoughts just to noticing my fingers, wherever they move. This brings us present to something other than the thoughts, so we can experience more space with those thoughts, but just keep watching the finger. And then again, going to one eyeball, close the one eyeball and keep one open, and just, there you go. See that? Just watching, tracking that movement for a little bit. Then switching to the other eyeball, tracking that movement in different ways. See how I'm moving in different ways, just with that one eye watching. And then stopping that and coming back and looking at those thoughts and see if they're still as sticky. Now, chances are they won't be. They may be, there's more space with them now, or they're gone. Now I can come into my body and revisit this energy of restlessness that's there. And chances are that energy is going to be a little bit lighter this time, because I've mined out, or I've pulled some stuff out, you could say, that stuff that was embedded or connected to that sensation. Now I'm coming back down into the sensation without those thoughts. Going to feel into that now. Rest with that. Whenever you're working in the body, the somatic experience, it takes like an infinite patience to really be with sensation for a good deal of time. Not with any agenda or expectation to get it to go away, but just from rest and allowing, dancing with it, maybe even saying the thank you phrase, thank you for arising, I love you, you're welcome to stay. Just spending a little time in the somatic experience for a bit, right? And then maybe that gets neutral, or you're just resting with the sensation, it feels neutral, or maybe it's gone or whatever. Or maybe it's still there strongly, it's just stuck. You could, again, another choice, you could go into mining at this point if the sensation is stuck. Because when sensations are stuck, it tells us that there's more mental stories or beliefs or thoughts connected to it. So with a mining question, I could say, just something simple like, why am I bored? You know, it's not an analytical question, it's an inquiry question. Why am I bored? I don't start thinking about the answer to that, I just put it out there. Why am I bored? And then I look from awareness and I see, oh, here's some more thoughts. Thoughts that I couldn't see before. Just by asking a different mining question. Why am I bored? Oh, you're bored because your life sucks. You're not doing anything. There's something wrong with you, right? Or whatever thoughts come up, pictures, something. Again, that's another opportunity to see a deeper layer of this boredom conditioning. Just resting with that, right? Eventually, as you go through this over and over, the boredom starts to relax, the restlessness starts to relax. And in that, you'll start to notice again that you have a choice. You don't have to go engage in that behavior, that addictive substance or behavior, because your system is more at ease now. It's more neutral around the boredom story. The restlessness has released in the body somewhat, and it seems like a choice at that point. Now that's true not just of addictions, but think about how that applies to like spiritual seeking or self-improvement. How much of that comes from us just feeling restless in the moment, like we need something more, right? It's not just addictive substance and activities. Maybe you're a spiritual seeker or someone who's really engaged in the seeking of healing themselves or improving themselves. There's stress in that story, right? Because it's always taking us away from our present experience into some future thing, just like all boredom does. So you can use this inquiry on spiritual seeking. If you feel that compulsion to go seek again into the future, which takes you away from your present experience, right? Just go back and to say, look, reverse inquiry. I don't need to seek anything. I don't need to seek enlightenment. Or I'm not bored if I don't seek enlightenment. Another way of saying it. Or I'm not restless if I don't seek enlightenment. See, that's forcing the ego to put its proof up of the boredom or the restlessness that's here, that's creating that movement of seeking. So new thoughts come up here around why I have to go seek this or seek that. Self-improvement, enlightenment. Coming from that restlessness. So again, I witness those thoughts, right? Let those come to rest. Come into the body and feel that. Be with that. I just wanted to point out that it's not just about addictive substances and behaviors. So much of our driving, our desire to seek the future instead of being here now comes from restlessness and boredom. So you can use that just to help in the spiritual search, the constant search for something more, right? Whether it's a substance or an activity or enlightenment or any future state. Just notice a lot of it comes from, not all of it, comes from a sense of restlessness or boredom with our present experience. But that boredom is an illusion created by the mind and fueled by the body. Take this inquiry as deeply as you need to in your life. Just pay attention to whether boredom is a driver for you, and if it is, use some of these inquiries to help. More to come.